Welcome to the Buddy and Shane Show for AIA. Healthier, longer, better lives.
Hello and welcome to the Buddy and Shane Show. This is our first episode. We're very excited. We are coming to you from the beautiful Gold Coast. It's beautiful today out on the beach. Went for a walk earlier and I'm joined by a man who's living on the beach these days, just floating through, doing his own thing. Lance Buddy Franklin, great to join you.
Hello, Shane. How are you, mate?
So do I call you Lance or do I call you Buddy? How do we operate?
Buddy, I think. Well, it is the Buddy and Shane show.
Well, you never know, you know.
I think Buddy's good.
Yeah, Buddy's great. Hey, I think it's awesome that you're doing a podcast because players like yourself, I know I'm going to pump you up right now because you were one of the all-time greats. How many goals did you kick? You kicked over 1,000, didn't you?
800 behinds.
Oh, did you?
A few behinds too.
How many out in the full?
Probably 300, I reckon.
But no, I think it's wonderful because sometimes players like yourself who are iconic for the game can be a little lost after footy to the game, go off and travel the world and do different things. But I think it's wonderful that you're going to stay involved and share your thoughts on AFL football. But before we get into dissecting the weekend's round, which was good, do you watch a lot of footy on the weekend? Or hopefully you did.
I watched a lot of footy.
An AFL podcast here.
Unfortunately, the wife's not happy about that. But yeah, I absolutely love watching most games every weekend.
That's how it started, wasn't it? Because we'd text back and forth and ask opinions about what do you think of this game, who do you think's going to win, and that's sort of how it all started and generated. Yeah,
I've naturally since a little kid, I've absolutely loved watching football, and then being retired for now over a year and a half, my passion and love for the game's still there. So I absolutely love sitting down and watching a game, especially the good ones, and the competition's so even now at the moment. So any team can win. So as we saw on the weekend. Richmond got up and
so unpredictable. And maybe you could be a coach. Do you want to be an AFL coach one day?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not, Shane.
You would love team meetings though.
Towards the end, I got over them. But yeah, it's all part of it, those meetings, isn't it?
Well, you didn't really have to take much notice because at the end of the day, it's like, just get out of my way and kick me the ball. If I've got 3 or 4 on me, and I used to get in trouble when we first started at Hawthorn, or you did, because once you got your mojo and was it your third year you kicked 70-something goals for the year?
Third year, yeah.
Yep. And then the following year you kicked 100, but you were like, just kick me the ball. And I used to have Clarko going, why are you kicking him the ball when he's got 3 players on him? And I'm like, because he'll mark it and kick the goal anyway. But anyway, but first, before we rip into footy, which we're very excited to be talking about, I want to talk about social media. And because you popped up on social media this week.
Yeah.
And you're playing cricket and you're bowling.
I was like, where's he going with this?
No. Firstly, your bowling action was very good. You're also on a holiday in Bali, staying at a pretty dodgy villa. The grass looked incredible.
The villa was pretty dodgy, wasn't it?
But your bowling action was really good. It was really impressive and fast. And then on top of that, the batter up the other end, I'm like, geez, he's got beautiful hand-eye coordination and he can bat a bit. But you're bowling to who?
Usman Khawaja, but I was Buddy Bumrah. I was ripping him in. I was having a bit of fun with that. We were on a holiday, so we started to play a bit of backyard cricket. I think he wanted to have a bit of a holiday and stay away from it, but I forced it upon him to start playing a bit of cricket. But it was good fun.
And people loved it. So you've got, an absolute cricket superstar who opens the batting for Australia, and then you've got an AFL icon who was send him down quick, Buddy Bumrah, as you called yourself. Did you get him out?
No, I didn't get him out. The game went for a while, but he finished off just hitting me for a 6, and he said lunch is ready.
He said that's enough.
He said that's enough. So that's how the game ended.
Okay. Well, my advice for you from there is you always bat first.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then especially when you're playing someone who is almost impossible to get out, especially on a flat wicket like that.
Absolutely.
Now, marathon running, you've taken up marathon running, which is great to have a focus now that, you've got a bit more time.
Yep.
I thought your body would be a bit banged up and you wouldn't be able to do something like that, but you've got yourself set, ready to go for the end of the year. You're going to run where?
New York, November 2nd. So I'm doing that, which I'm really excited about. Been running for a little while now. So I think our first run, we're we're going down to Canberra for Mother's Day. I think that starts with a 10K run. Then we're going to half marathon Gold Coast.
Yes.
And then Alice Springs, a 30-kilometre run.
What?
And then New York. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a bit of fun. Like, I've just absolutely loved just putting the earphones in and going for a run. It's nothing better.
And so you just go through the hinterland of the Gold Coast these days?
I'm not going to tell you where I'm running, Shane.
Well, why haven't you asked me to come for a little shuffle with you? Just a short shuffle for me.
I'm running, where am I? I do it through Mudgeerba.
Yep.
Beautiful. It's beautiful out there, so that's where I'm running.
Yep. And so what about your knee? Don't you have a bit of a dodgy knee?
I did when I was playing, but now that I've finished up, it's actually my body's feeling pretty good, which is amazing. I think it's just nice to keep nice and active, and being able to run around and have a kick with the kids still is awesome.
And you've been playing a bit of basketball too. I've seen some highlights, and it's not
some
good.
Highlights of me out the
I don't think I've ever seen
a
worse basketballer.
I know. I've actually improved. I've actually improved, which I'm really proud of.
We definitely got the height for basketball. And just to finish off with, before we rip in, you've got hair. Like we're used to you having.
Are we going there? Are we?
A shaved head, but you've got a really nice head of hair.
It was quite funny. I caught up with Ruffy a couple of weeks ago when I was down in Melbourne. He goes, "Oh mate, a few of the boys think you've got a bit of a wig." Fake hair, and I was flat. So absolutely not, man. This is taking me. No, I think he was dead serious. This has taken me a year to grow. I'm so happy with it. And then he goes, "Oh, you've got a wig." I was pretty flat, but
so it's real.
It's definitely mine.
Real. Okay.
It's mine.
Well, it looks good.
Thanks, mate.
Keep it going. How long are you going to go? You're going to go.
I'm just going to go long.
Surfer vibe on the Gold Coast.
Yep.
Although
long, curly.
See you as a surfer. You don't get out with
Absolutely.
a surfboard, do you?
I don't surf, mate.
No, you're a boogie board operator.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go. Round 6, Easter weekend. How good was the footy? Although some of the games were a touch dodgy. Collingwood, wonderful winners over Brisbane. Geez, they turned it on, 52 points. The Blues, they're back. Flogged North Melbourne, disappointing. We're going to talk about Clarko a little bit later, 85 points. Essendon in a thriller by 2 points over the Eagles. Jeez, they got away with that. But anyway, Melbourne, first win for the season. That's your old team that you used to support as a kid. 10 points over Fremantle. Adelaide against the Giants, just totally shut them down. Richmond, hey.
What a win that was.
11 points, over the Suns. Port Adelaide, 8 points over your mob, or your old mob, one of them, the Swans. Jeez, that was hard to watch too.
It was.
And Western Bulldogs smashed the Saints, and then we're going to go the Geelong 7-point winners over the Hawks. So we'll start with the match yesterday.
Yep.
Okay. Easter Monday, I predicted the crowd because I think you sent me a text message saying, I think there'll be 85,000. I said about 88,000.
I think no. What did it end up being? I think it was 89.
It was 88.
88,000. So I
got it right.
I was on the money there.
No, you were. You actually sent me that. But incredible match, incredible rivalry, something you were very much a part of. And, yeah, it brought everything. Obviously, you got some wonderful players with Smith and Holmes for Geelong through the middle and their run and carry. And then the Hawks found a way to keep themselves in the game, although it wasn't pretty. Skills were a bit average a lot of the times. But it's just one of those games where you just never know what's going to happen with these two sides.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great game to watch. I think, obviously, as you said, the skills were a little bit off, but I think that's just what comes when the pressure's on, and the pressure was up from the bounce. But I thought, it was a good win for the Cats. I think they're playing some really good football. Disappointing for Hawks. I think that's probably one they probably thought they were going to win, which they had the momentum but weren't able to capitalise.
Yeah, and stat-wise, and I don't like focusing too much on the stats, but Hawks won a lot of the stats. But, Dangerfield, doesn't he just, he's obviously playing a lot more forward, but he just gets the job done. And you know that he's always going to have an impact in that last quarter when the side needs a lift. It's quite remarkable, a player of his age that can still have the impact, and now moving forward probably can prolong his career a bit longer because, more than anyone playing in the forward line, but he's just got that X factor. He's got that speed. He's got that courage to crash packs. He doesn't care about his body getting smashed. What an incredible player. It
is, and I think, it's a real credit to him. He obviously really looks after his body and knows what he needs to do to go out there and perform each week, but he's doing so well. He's I think it's a great role for him, really, to be able to play midfield his whole career, and then in the back half of his career go up and play forward. He's been a pleasure to watch this year.
Now, the Hawthorn captain, James Sicily, wasn't a great day for him. Probably it was disastrous. I haven't seen him play so poorly. And, we obviously love the players and we want to pump up the players, but it wasn't a happy day for him.
It wasn't, unfortunately, and I'm happy to go down there and teach him how to mark, seeing I was that good at it. But no,
I think he'd like that.
You have off days. There's no doubt about that, and he'd definitely come out and say he had a bad day. But I'm sure he's a proud player, and he's had such a great career. This week he'll come back and play really well. Yeah,
a couple of things I want to say about James Sicily. Firstly, being the captain, and I was a captain once. Your actions can be magnified big time. So I think he's got to get out of arguing with the umpires, especially when obviously decisions go against you. He's got to really pull his head in there. If he's going to talk to the umpires, it needs to be calmly and softly. I think there was a situation where he gave away a free kick, or he challenged a free kick, and then the next centre bounce, there wasn't much in it, but the free kick was given Geelong way. And I reckon there can be a flow-on effect. Because imagine being an umpire and you're copping it all the time. Of course, you're not going to go, do you know what? I'm going to look after them next time if they're in that situation. So I reckon he needs to be very careful in how that he goes about it. He's got to try and eliminate that from his game. I thought when he gave a 50-metre at one stage, I reckon the coach, Sam Mitchell, needed to take him off and barrel him, give it to him. I've got a feeling he might have did that at half-time. But I think it's always a good visual to say, even though you're the captain and we've given you this leadership role, that's not good enough. And then the last thing is the urgency when he gets the footy, because he gets the football even when it's in a fast play and he sort of stops. It's like time stops, and he always waits for players to come at him, and then he tries to pick off option by hand or by foot. I reckon he's got to be like a boxer over the next few weeks and change his attitude, be on his toes, be really urgent every time he gets the footy, wants to take ground, wants to move it really fast, and just to try and get him out of becoming that really laconic player that he has been of late. He's a wonderful player, but I just think there's a few things that he can really focus on to hopefully get him back on track, because we know that he's an all-Australian superstar when he wants to be, and at the moment he's just going through a little rough patch.
I think you've been harsh on him, mate. I think you've been very harsh on Sis. I think he's an absolute champion of a player. I think he's still very underrated. He's had an off day, Shane. I think you're getting a bit too carried away there, but he'll bounce back, and I'm sure there with these conversations happening at the club, obviously with Sam having a chat to him about the way he holds himself, maybe. I'm not sure, but I'm sure he'll bounce back this week and they'll have a good win.
It may have been a little negative, but it's all done in a positive manner, and I'm sure these discussions are happening behind the closed doors anyway. Collingwood, let's talk about Collingwood defeating Brisbane by 52 points. What's going on down there? Because they were saying old players, too old, too slow. They're too good. Collingwood are unbelievably structured. Defensively, they're amazing. They're very hard to get through. And just the chemistry and connection, it's been out of this world.
Kills me to say they've actually been really good, and they're playing some amazing football. I think obviously they've got senior players that have been around the game for a long time playing really good football, and then the guys just underneath them, their role players are doing really well too. And then you've got your superstar player in Dacos that's just putting on a show. He's in unbelievable form. Just a great player to watch.
Yeah, what do you think of him? Because they don't go to him early. He has 21 touches in the first half, but I just love the way that he just charges, like in every direction. He got flattened there at one stage.
Got straight up.
Yeah. 10 seconds later, he's back involved in the play. He's a special player.
He is, and if I'm opposition playing against him, I'm going straight to him and playing on him, because you leave it to half time. He's had 21 touches, probably 6 or 7 score involvements. the game's nearly done on the back of one individual setting up the game. So for me, if I was a coach, I'd be sending a player to him and stopping him and putting body work into him.
Yep.
I think that's the key.
Yep.
But the thing is, he can run, and he runs all day. I think when you can do that, as you did in your career, you can break the tags.
5 in a row for the Pies. Lions' first loss for the season. And, Nick Dacos, what a pleasure to watch. Carlton, they're back 2 in a row. They thrashed North Melbourne. Gee, North Melbourne were disappointing. I'm starting to lose it for North Melbourne. I'm worried about their fans because their fans have been so loyal. This year was all about rebuilding and climbing back up the ladder, but they've been losing by good margins. At times when opposition kick goals against them, it sort of rains goals rather than sort of finding a way to lock the game back up. And for the Blues, well, it's all about confidence. All you can do, I know a lot of people saying, who have they beaten? But it doesn't matter. You've got to win. Look at what happened to Gold Coast against Richmond, So you just got to take the games when you can. Their confidence is back. Their forward line's functioning a bit better. The midfield's functioning better. Sam Walsh is got his confidence and charging towards goal. So
I think
things are on the up for the Blues.
Yeah, and I think it's just good for footy. I think when a good Carlton team's winning, I think it just builds momentum for them, and the crowds are huge down there in Victoria when they're up and about. So it's just good to see them winning. On the flip side with North Melbourne, I thought that was another disappointing loss. I'm sure Clarko will be absolutely fuming with that performance.
So, you played under Clarko, for 9-10 years?
9 years.
A long year? That was enough.
That was enough.
You had a lot of success.
Then I was out of there, mate.
The headmaster trying to control you. So what do you think's going on behind the scenes from Clarko's point of view? Because you know him intimately, you still have a great connection with him. So what do you think's going on behind closed doors?
I think there's no doubt they're rebuilding, and that's what they're in the middle of doing at the moment. Probably the last 3 or 4 drafts, they've been able to go and get the best kids in Australia, and that's going to take time. It's not going to just flick the switch and they're going to be playing final straight away, even though they'd love to be. It's going to be a process for them, and I think they've got the best man for the job. You saw what he was able to do at Hawks when Ruffy and Lewis and a couple other boys got there. You were one of the leaders there then, but it can happen, but it's just going to take time. And I think as a supporter, you've just got to stick tough with Clarko, and I'm sure he'll get you guys there. There's no doubt about that.
And he does look at football differently, doesn't he? So, your mind must have been, your brain exploding with the information coming in and positioning where you need to be, and if the ball's on the other side of the ground, you need to push back and block space here. And so you do play football differently, and it takes a lot of time. It takes the same team being connected too. So it all is very much a work in progress. But I think what's happening at the moment is supporters are going, do you know what? We're not being competitive at times. And that's the unacceptable bit to it all.
It definitely is. And I think Clarko's that's why he's brought in some senior players. And I think getting Parker to the club's been huge for them, even though it's not showing on the scoreboard at the moment. But I think having leaders from other clubs come in there and show these young guys how to go about their business is going to be huge. And I think, I'm sure they'll get a few wins this year and continue to build.
You know what I think they need to do? I think they obviously, when you came in, and it took a few years to build with that, but then Hawthorn turned into the unsociable Hawks, had a real hard edge about them. I reckon North Melbourne have got to go there. And one of your old teammates, Luke Parker, I think he just needs to be the real driver of that, be real physical around the contests. It's not about gathering possessions. It's all about, head over the footy, tough when we need to be, and maybe they need to turn into the unsociable Hawks, play with that real edge and that real hardness. Yeah,
absolutely. And you look at their games, they start well. They have a good half, and then they drop off. And that just shows me that you're thinking it's mental.
Yep.
Because they're still only young and they're learning the game and working out how hard they play up to push themselves. So I think it's going to, as I said before, it's going to take time with them, but having Clarko there, having other leaders from clubs, other clubs go there is going to help them.
Yep. Essendon, 2 points. They got away with it. West Coast were very good. I had a look through stats. West Coast have won 2 out of 24 quarters this year, which is they need to be better than that. But obviously a better performance on the the weekend. Disappointing with big Sammy Draper going out with an Achilles. But up forward, Peter Wright with 6.
Big Pete.
Big shining light. So that was nice.
It is, and I think he's a key for them. Like, he hasn't been able to get back in that team, obviously, with form or whatever it is. But I think with him, he straightens them up. There's no doubt about that. He kicked 6 goals, good welcome return for him, and it gives the players up the ground something to look for as a big target. And he was able to take his marks and go back and kick his goals, which was good for him.
So as a forward in the modern game, it's hard playing in the forward line, especially if your midfield aren't moving the ball quick because of the numbers that can saturate back. So can you just explain how sometimes it's almost impossible, as a forward to lead into space or to actually have an impact because there's so many numbers that are coming your way. So how do you work through all that? Well, and is it communicating with the midfield and half back to move the ball quicker? How does it all sort of flow together?
Well, I think that as a player, that's why you don't want to become one-dimensional. And if as a forward, all you can do is lead up at the ball, I think it's not good. You need to add other strings to your bow. And I think most players can do are able to do other things that rather than just leading up. They can go back to goal. They can hook back up. They can get the ball on the ground in the air. And I think it's just having different things.
And do you find that sort of resetting is very hard during the quarters? It's virtually quarter time, half time, 3/4 time that the message needs to go out. We need more space, or we need to move the ball quicker because, you're making it so hard for us to hit the scoreboard, which is obviously what's happening with the Swans at the moment. But, so the communication's obviously needs to be extremely strong. And they talk about connection with your midfield and even the backs having connection with the midfield. But if you are to kick a lot of goals, it pretty much you're relying on the midfield and the way they move the footy.
Yeah, and then most clubs are good at communicating it, not waiting to quarter time or half time. The good ones have the good leaders on the ground that are able to see it when you're out there and just go on and chat to the midfield. This is what we need to do at this time. If you're seeing something, communicating it and then spreading it all through the forward line or the midfield, then it can get done.
And holding up one of those big signs, those big signs that they got these days, which I can't work out what they mean or what they do. Maybe there's one of those signs that says open the forward line, move the ball faster, speed through the middle. I don't know. Melbourne, your old team, you barracked for them as a kid, didn't you?
Yeah, I was a Melbourne supporter as a kid.
Yeah.
So
who was your favourite player? Is it Gary Lyon? Is that right?
Gary Lyon, Neitz, Tingay.
Yes.
Ingerson. Uze.
Oh, there you go.
All those boys.
Is that why you got a little soft spot for the Tigers? Because of Uze?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, the D's were great, 10-point winners over Fremantle. Fremantle, sort of don't know what you're going to get from week to week with Fremantle, but Cozzy Pickett kicked 5. Was it an audition?
Was it?
For the Fremantle Dockers saying, hey, I can play. If I am on my way at the end of the year, maybe this is what I could bring to your club. He was really amazing.
Good. Kicked 5 goals, but really disappointing for Fremantle, I think. They've got to be coming over to Melbourne and winning those games. If they're going to be playing finals, like they even looked last year, like they should have been playing finals. They were on top of the ladder for a big part of the season and then didn't play finals. And then they come across here and play Melbourne and get beaten. I think it's really disappointing. I think the coach and the players will be devastated with that loss, and they're going to have to bounce back.
And well done for the D's because they've been under the pump. They've been into Petrecca, they've been into Max Gawn, Clayton Oliver, Viney. They're proud footballers. They've been wonderful footballers. They're history-making footballers. Yeah. They won a premiership for the D's, but I thought their first game of the year against the Giants, the D's were good. I thought against Geelong down there, they played pretty well. So it hasn't all been doom and gloom. So it was nice for them to get across the line. I want to talk about Christian Petracca a little bit later, but well done, D's. Congratulations. Adelaide was a good win over the Giants. Both these sides have won 18 quarters out of 24 for the season. But Adelaide, what they did really well, they just shut down. They just didn't allow the Orange Tsunami to get the wave going through. They did it really, really well, Adelaide, and they're a possible top 4 chance the way they're playing. They've got a good forward line. You'd like their forward line, lots of tools. And then they've got a player called Isaac Rankin who I know
got
you
star
love.
factor,
I know
don't
he's
they?
in your top 5.
They've definitely got star factor, I think. And when they play in Adelaide, they're dangerous. But yeah, they've been really good this year. They're a great team to watch. Got some good young forwards. They're doing some damage this year. Disappointing for Giants to not go over there and win that game. But I think, Adelaide are going to have a good season. There's no doubt about that.
And what do you think? Top 4? Do you think they could possibly sneak their way in there?
Maybe.
It'll be hard to
Maybe.
beat at
I think
home.
you think you nearly mark in most games they play at home. Because
Yep.
if Giants can't go over there and win, you think it's going to be hard for other teams to go across there and win too. So I think you have to mark them down probably to win all their games at home. I think maybe top 4 to top 6
Yep.
For Adelaide. But they coach really well and structurally they set up well too.
Isaac Rankin, I know he's a player that you love, and I love him as well. So good to watch, one of the most exciting players to watch. But there's another player, Adelaide, who I absolutely love watching, Ben Keys. And he's just a blue-collar worker, does whatever job that the club wants him to do. And if I was picking a team, he'd be in there straight away. He'd be one of the first pick.
Well, and, internally they're the players you love. Like he'd be getting pumped up every week by the coach for his role he plays. He goes after him, he puts pressure on, he tackles, he kicks goals, and he brings energy. And they're the players you absolutely love playing with.
Yeah, no, we like him. Richmond, in an upset, everyone thought they weren't going to win a game for the year. They beat Carlton round 1, which was so exciting. I love the backflip. How good was the backflip? Great for footy. And then they defeat the Suns, who everyone had them penciled in of winning. The Suns obviously been in red hot form, and there's a similar rebuild to the Hawks 205 feel about Richmond. When you sort of look at them playing young kids, they're not necessarily ready. Great energy. They've got a good mixture of old fellas as well in there, and the Tigers are quite good to watch. They're playing good patches of footy.
Yeah, they are. I think Uzo's got them going really well. They've got obviously still some really good senior players in that group. But, they're in the middle of a rebuild, really. But
Yep.
What did they get? 5 top 20 picks last year. So, and that draft last year was a ripper, they reckon. So,
And they got North's number 1 pick next year.
next year, yeah.
And maybe
So they could
third
have
or
2
fourth
picks
last.
in
So,
the
so they're
top
gonna
5 again.
they're going to find A-grade talent once again. So everything's set for them over the next few years to not only make finals again, but to probably win a few in a row.
You'd think so. With what you're saying, like obviously, I think if you can go to the draft, rebuild, I think the future's bright for them, no doubt about that, and hopefully they can keep winning.
Yeah, and obviously when you were brought into Hawthorn, along with the great Joe Roughhead and the thug Jordan Lewis, but the first couple of years you just had to try and learn and understand and play on players that you probably looked up to and thinking, I've got to take him on. But it was a great way to learn, get a bit of exposure, and then work out what you actually need to work on. Do I need to be stronger? Do I need to be faster? My endurance needs to be better. Do I need to mark the ball better? So it's a nice way to get an introduction, even though it's quite daunting.
Yeah, well, I think everything just takes time. It's going to, like, when you're rebuilding, it's not just going to happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of pre-seasons, a lot of training, getting to know each teammate, what their strengths are, because it's not just about you. It's about your teammates around you knowing exactly how you work together, and that takes time. And I think Richmond, North Melbourne, these teams, it's going to take a little bit of time, but they've got the draft picks. They're doing it the right way. I think just as supporters, you've got to stick fat with them, and it'll slowly eventually get there. There's no doubt about that.
And I think clear messaging is really important with all of that too. You know, with all the members are all over it. And the supporters, they know what's going on. So just be honest with where you're positioning the club. I think that's key. Port Adelaide, great win against the Hawks, and then they knock off the Swans. It was a very good win. They've always had a good record against the Swans, but what are we going to do about the Swans? They're struggling to kick goals. Yep. They've also got Goulden out and who else? Papali in the forward line. But, they're a little bit below. They're still trying to work out where everyone fits. What are they going to do?
Yeah, I think obviously the injuries aren't aren't great. I think they've got 8 or 9 of their starting 2022 out of the team, which is not ideal. And, it's not an excuse, but it does affect the way you play at times. There's no doubt about that. But, they would have loved to get that win on the weekend. I think they definitely had opportunities. Port played really well, but Sydney also had opportunities. I think the Liz had three running shots.
I reckon he kicked them all differently. He caressed
slithering
one.
too much, wasn't he?
He guided another, and then he launched another. Yeah. So you could see him thinking, okay, I'm going to guide this one. Yeah. And he missed them all.
He missed them all, Liz. But, they'd be disappointed, no doubt about that. Internally, there'd be some long chats happening there, I'm sure.
Yep.
And
they've tried McCartan forward, and I don't have any issues with coaches trying players in different positions, and sometimes I think you've got to give them time, but I don't think it's working, so I think you've got to flip it again.
Yeah, you'd have to look at it and probably go, it hasn't worked. I think when I look at that, I think if I was the opposition and Tom went and played forward, I'd be happy days because you're taking the best defender away.
Yep.
So if you're an opposition forward and Tom's not there, this is great. But I think, it just probably hasn't worked. I think you leave Tom back and then either play Francis, he popped up and kicked a couple of goals late, so maybe you just play him or a smaller forward line maybe. I'm not sure, but there's a bit to work through there, but they're not far away.
And I like Port Adelaide's grit. They've really sort of got in the trenches and gone to work and really tried to play an attacking style of footy. Last quarters are a bit of a worry for them, but I like what they've done over the last few weeks. They've really sort of got back to their DNA, which is hunt the footy and be tough. And the Western Bulldogs, they smashed the Saints. The Saints were very disappointing. I thought this match was a 50-50. But they're doing a great job because they've got so many out, Bontempelli returned, but they've had so many out and a lot of disruption. And
what a return it was from the Bont.
How good was he?
He had 30 touches, just on fire. To miss that many games with a calf.
It was a calf injury too, which you've had.
I've had plenty
of
those, Shane. But, that takes a lot to come out. I think mentally he must be very, very resilient because – when you do a calf and miss 6 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever it is, that mental side comes into it, and then to come out and have 30 touches and absolutely dominate the game and just push through, pretty classy, wasn't it?
And one thing I love about Bontempelli is he doesn't always grab the footy when it's in front of him. He paddles, and I think it's a great little weapon because you grab it, you get tackled all the time. But if you can just paddle until you're ready to grab and release, I think it's a real weapon that he's got. He kicks goals, such a wonderful player. So nice to have him back. And Tom Liberatore, talk about heart and soul. He's definitely all-Australian team if I'm putting an all-Australian team right now. He's just an absolute workhorse.
Run down tackle.
Yeah, Bradley Hill.
That was incredible.
Which is not easy. He's super quick.
And what was it? I think it was in the last couple of minutes of the game. So I think that just shows you the mindset of this guy, fighting to the death, really. It's a good sign, especially if you've got a young club and you see a leader doing that. I think that's awesome.
Imagine a midfield with Tom Liberatore, put Ben Keys in there. You got all the blue-collar workers. They won't stop at all, regardless of what's happening on the scoreboard. And Sam Darcy, we're sending him all the very best because we're going to talk about Sam Darcy in just a minute, but we don't want to see those. We don't want to see any players injured and out of the game for a long period. But we're all holding our breath. But we're glad that it's not as bad as we first thought, and we certainly wish him all the very best. Now, you're listening to the Buddy and Shane Show for AIA Australia, a life, health, and well-being insurer with a commitment to help Australians lead healthier, longer, better lives. Bud, we've had a little glance over the weekend's games, which has been good, but it's now time for
Buddy's Young Star of the Week for the Kia Tasman. Reserve yours now.
That's it, Buddy's Young Star of the Week. So this is going to happen every week. You're going to tell us a player that you're really enjoying. You're going to share a bit of love for them. And this week, The player we just spoke about him. Who is it?
It's Darcy from Bulldogs, I think. Obviously, he went off the field with the injury on the weekend, but I think prior to that, he's been one of the best forwards in the game. What he's doing is absolutely incredible.
What do you love about him? What excites you when you watch him?
Well, I like the way he moves. I like the way he moves. Obviously, he's got beautiful hands. Takes the ball at the highest point. Uses his opposite foot like I did pretty well.
Hang on. You're talking about opposite foot. He's amazing on
incredible.
Both sides of his body. I don't think I ever saw you kick on your opposite.
4 goals.
How many games did you play?
4 goals on the right, and
4. How many games did you play?
3 toe pokes from the square, and then 1 I slammed on the boot.
I don't think I've seen a worse kick on the opposite side of the body than you. But it's quite remarkable that he can do that.
It is. I think. I don't think I've ever seen anyone that size be able to kick both sides of the body and make it look so good. So it's disappointing that he's not going to be out there till later in the year, but what a future he's got. There's no doubt about that.
And one thing I'm sure you would have loved is that he was probably told, worst case scenario, it's not going to be good. You're going to be out for a year, yet brings himself back onto the bench, sits there amongst the players, sings the song with the rest of the team. I'm like, no, they've got a good one here. They've got a great kid who's just got his head in the right space.
Absolutely. He's a mature young man. I think you could be forgiven for him to be in the back icing up his knee, but for him to go out there, sing the song, get around his teammates, I think that says a lot about him. And he's got a bright future on and off the field, that's for sure.
Yeah, I reckon if that happened to you, you would have been out of there.
I would have been in my care on the way home, mate.
You would have been out of there. But we love Sam Darcy. We wish him all the very best. He's been so exciting so far this year. And hopefully the Bulldogs continue doing really well like they are. They might be ready to go for the finals. And wouldn't it be nice if you could sneak him into your forward line ready to rock and roll for finals time? Well, there you go. That was Buddy's Young Star of the Week. Thanks to the Kia Tasman, the most Australian Kia ever developed. Built tough, tested hard, and ready for anything. Whether you're hauling, towing, or taking the road less travelled, the Tasman is made for the job. The Kia Tasman. Reserve yours now. Now, I'll tell you what, talking about the Kia Tasman, I saw that ad with you in it, sitting in the back.
I'm a good
very
actor,
comfortable.
I'm a good actor.
Yeah, I think there's a career for you.
I think so.
Didn't Home and Away ask you at some stage to pop on there?
No.
But you're sitting. How'd you go with all that? Because you don't really like the cameras a great deal. I've struggled to get a camera here today, just to say, look, this is the modern way of doing things. But how was that experience? Because you had the Volk driving, one of the great UFC fighters of all time, and you're sitting in the back going, what did you say?
What did I say? I miss footy or something.
I miss footy.
Mate, it was actually
very good.
Bit of fun. It was a bit of fun. I think it's probably not – I'm not the best at acting, but,
I thought you were very good.
Okay,
very
thanks,
believable.
mate. That's all I need.
You obviously did the job because that's the bit they use, so well done. And it seems as though your role in those ads keeps stepping up. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're driving the car next time. We're going to talk through some key talking points, just a couple. We've done a nice little review. We've gone into a fair bit of detail, probably too much detail for my liking, but a little bit of detail. We're talking about Sam Darcy, how wonderful a player he was. But I want to get your opinion on Jamara Ugle-Hagan. I don't know what's going on there. I wish him all the very best with whatever challenges he's got within his life. The Bulldogs are a wonderful football club. I'm sure they're doing everything they possibly can to help in whatever direction they need to go. But there's obviously concerns in a lot of areas. So let's just say if it doesn't work out at the end of the year and they go, do you know what? We don't know what to do. We've tried our very best. And Jamarra thinks, I still want to play football. I want to dedicate myself and be involved, but I think I need a new fresh start. What do you do in that situation? From a club point of view, from Jamarra's point of view, how do you navigate, something that could sort of lead you down many different roads and many different directions?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Well, obviously, we don't know the circumstances that he's in or what's going on behind the scenes. But yeah, he hasn't been at the club for 5 to 6 months, which
is a great concern, yeah.
Which is a great concern. And, how sad would it be if we were to lose him to the game and not see him play footy again, which we don't want to see. But you just want to make sure that he's getting all the support possible, that he's happy, that he's healthy, and that he's got good people around him that can support him through that.
And I have no doubt the Western Bulldogs would be putting the right people in place and giving him everything that he needs. So you had a wonderful career with Hawthorn. You finished on a good note, but you wanted to move cities. You wanted to move cities to – I still don't really know the exact reason, but you wanted to – this is what I think. You wanted to go to a different state, which wasn't so AFL focused, have a bit more of a life where you could sort of just be someone blending in a crowd, although being 6'6" and someone with a beautiful head of hair, it's very hard to do that. And then you had Jacinta as well, who was living in Sydney too. So, a change for you was really important and something that you love.
Yeah, I did. And, that was a change I wanted to at that stage. What was I, 26 then?
Even though it was really hard, wasn't it?
They're tough decisions, like obviously very hard.
There was lots of tears after the grand final because you knew that.
I knew that my time was up and that I'd committed to the Swans. So it ended on a high, which is good. Yeah. Obviously, leaving the club after winning another premiership was incredible. But yeah, they're tough decisions. There's no doubt it's not easy.
And do you know what I loved about you saying, I'm going to the Swans, but I loved how you went and met with the Giants just to negotiate a higher figure with the Swans.
I'm not going there, Shane.
Now, so with Jamarra, do you think if Melbourne's not his place and he wants to continue his footy and he wants to be dedicated and he wants to really put everything into it, do you think Sydney is a good fit? Obviously they need a forward, but they need the buy-in from the player, and the player's got to want to do it. That's the key. Do you think Sydney's a good fit? And on the back of that, if he did go to Sydney and they said, buddy, why don't you come down and be a bit of a mentor at times? Is that something you would think about? Because I still think you've got a great link to AFL football, and I think you should have an involvement with the club, even if it's part-time, because I think you got so much to offer and they'd take so much from you on the field and off the field.
Well, I think if you looked at Jamarra and you said just football, yes, you're grabbing him, aren't you, in 2 seconds. He's a number one pick. He's incredible. He's got, what did he kick, 40 or 50 last year or the year before? So he knows how to play football. And if it was just that, yes, you definitely get him to the club. But obviously there's other stuff that's going on, which is unfortunate. So if you're a club trying to get him, they're going to be doing their due diligence and looking at whether he's worth having him at the club. So there's a lot that's going to go on with that now. But as I said before, I think the biggest thing for Jamarra is that he's happy and healthy. I think that's the biggest thing, just getting himself right. And, mental health doesn't discriminate, does it at all? So I think he's just got to get himself mentally in a good place, and hopefully we can see him back either playing at the Bulldogs or hopefully the Swans.
Do you think like the Swans have got an unusual culture, because everyone talks about how wonderful it is? It's just like a breath of fresh air going from a Melbourne environment to Sydney. Like you can have a bit of a life. Obviously a real NRL focus in Sydney. There's lots of pockets where AFL football not even mentioned. You go to some suburbs, there's not even AFL grounds. So you can sort of get away from it a bit, although you're a bit different. Yep. But your players or your teammates, they can just sort of blend into the crowd, can't they? Yeah,
and I think just obviously Hawthorn had a strong culture, Sydney had a really strong culture, and that's why these clubs have been up the top for so long. But I think with Sydney, if he was able to come there, like they've got really good leaders. A lot of these boys are from Melbourne, so when they relocate to Sydney, they don't have family, they don't have friends, they all lean on each other. Yep. And that's why the club's so close. They're literally with each other every day of the week and do everything together, and that's why they're such a tight group. So I think if he was to come up there, there's no doubt that he'd be fit in really nicely with that group.
I have been to your house here on the Gold Coast, which is a beautiful house. It's an unbelievable house, really. And I've rocked up and there was just all these Swans players everywhere. And there was just a great connection. And you can see why it works because, as you did say, a lot of them were from Melbourne, but they're all linked and together, and they are a family. And I think that's why it works. You know, they're there for each other, and they want everyone to succeed all around them, including themselves. Now, I want to talk about Christian Petracca. You were a Melbourne supporter growing up, but Christian Petracca, I think, has unfairly copped it big time. You know, pre-season, off-season, he said, "Listen, we need to be better as a club." He brought up a lot of issues with the football club. A lot of the media said it's wrong to do that. He got emotional a few weeks ago, which just shows, you know, he's all in, and I love that, even after thinking that he might sort of need to go elsewhere. But I can really relate to this because I was in a similar position where I felt maybe I need to go somewhere else. And I virtually said to Sydney I'd go to Sydney, but then they ended up winning a flag a month later. And then on top of that, I remember handing a list to our president, Ian Dicker, who's a great man. All he wanted to do was get the footy club financially right and then try and make the club stronger on field.
What was on this list, Shane?
Well, no, I gave him a long list, about a 20.
What was on it?
20 points, I reckon. Firstly, what was on it? That's a good question. It was all to do with what we need to be better at playing football, pretty much, and a better football club. And it might have been, you know, we need more footballs. We don't have enough footballs to train with, you know, or can we get some
or something like that?
No, that was when you arrived. You wanted more massages, and longer massages. But you know, it was all to do with footy. We need some fitness equipment. We need to, you know, have better facilities when we're doing certain training. It was all to do with trying to make the club a bit better. And you can look at it and say, oh, that's selfish and why would you do that? But I think with the Christian Petracca setup, he just wanted the club to be better. We're not doing this right. We're not professional here. Here's an area of concern. And to their credit, they've all gone back to the drawing board, you know, Simon Goodwin and the whole football club, and said, right, we need to be better as a football club. We've sort of drifted away from what was our DNA. And I just think he was unfairly whacked there for a while. And I love the fact that he's playing good footy. Even if it gets to the end of the year and he may not be there, which who knows, but that's a possible situation to happen. But I love the fact that he was prepared to open up and go into detail about how can we make the club better. Did you ever have that at the Swans or even with Hawthorn? Did you go into great detail at times just trying to make the club better, or every club you've been to has been run well by the time you sort of were there?
Both clubs were run really well. I think obviously good leaders, good people at the club that had those tough conversations. So I'm sure over my time there was conversations I had with the club, but I can't remember too many of them. But I think with Christian, it's good just to see him back playing footy. Obviously, what happened last year with the injury, then the off season with all the media were on his back. It was a real attack, wasn't it? It would have been hard on him. Would have been really hard on him. But you know, it's just good to see him back playing good footy, smile on his face, and hopefully they can keep winning too.
Well, he was definitely smiling on the weekend, and rightly so. So well done. Okay, we're going to finish up in just a sec, but before we go, Nostradamus buddy, we're going to predict the future. We've seen a sample size of what the teams are prepared to do and how they're going to set up and the attitude they're bringing so far this year. So the grand final winner this year, 2025, which way are you leaning? Was there a few teams, but you got to
I'm leaning
put your head on the chopping block.
Pies, Premiership. Kills me to say that, but
with all the old ones, yeah?
With all
are they going to be okay when finals comes around? It's a long season.
I know, but the few old boys will be rested, you'd think. Yep. But I think they're probably just them at their best. I think they're probably the best at the moment. And
Set up so well behind the footy.
They set up really well. I think Fly's he's coaching them really well, and I think their senior boys are doing well. And I think GWS. I know they had a loss on the weekend, but I think
they've got that hurt from last year. You know, those 2 close losses in the finals. Surely, you know, you saw it with Brisbane winning last year. They had that from the year before. I think that's a real factor when you got that chip on your shoulder and that little bit of hunger and that drive and that disappointment. I think that's really important to have that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime you lose a prelim final, you want to come back the next year and go one better. But I look at GWS list, and I think they've got the best list by a fair margin with the players they've got, early draft picks, and you got Hogan up forward. Stop playing footy.
Sorry, I was touching your foot under the table.
Yeah, they got Hogan up forward. They've got a loaded team, so be good to see them go well.
All right. Well, I might as well ask you why we're here when you mentioned Hogan. What is it about goal kickers and good goal kickers and goal kickers who win the Coleman medal with their dodgy goal kicking technique? He'd run around on an arc, like the 50-metre arcs are huge, although it got a bit straighter.
It got better later.
Why did it get a bit straighter later on?
I got sick of missing goals. So I was like, I better start practicing.
But you got Hogan. Hogan comes in with the shuffle. It's like Fred Flintstone ready to push off his car down to Barney Rubble's house.
It works. It works. That's the main thing.
You had Josh Kennedy. When Josh Kennedy started leading the goal kicking, which mustn't have been for a long time because you were playing then, so I'm sure you would have been winning the goal kicking a lot. But the AFL were really worried because all the kids at Auskick were thinking, this is the technique you need to be the leading goal kicker. So they're like, hang on. I think they even had a word to Josh Kennedy saying, can you change your run-up action because all the young kids are modelling their kicking on the way you're doing it. So full forwards and key forwards, they're an unusual lot with their technique. But at the end of the day, if you've got a good kicking percentage, you just roll with it, yeah?
Absolutely. I think it just comes down to practice what works for you. Not everything works for the same person. So I think you just get your set routine and just stick to it. And then I think, obviously, if you're kicking straight, then that confidence comes from that. And I think Jesse's got that down pat.
There's been a couple of ruckmen over the last few weeks who've had some shocking kicks. Lloyd Meeks shot the other day. And Lambs. So, ruckman, if you're listening, we love what you do. Just compete, hit the ball down to the midfielders, and when you get a shot at goal, handball the ball off. We don't need you kicking the ball for goals.
Adams, you just need a handball, mate. Absolutely.
And Lloyd Meek, what happened there? Oh, my goodness. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. Has it been okay?
It's been
we've spoken a bit of footy, which has been good. Yeah.
But, I've enjoyed it. It's been good.
Will you come back next week or not?
I'll be back here next week, right?
All right, so there you go. Thanks for joining us on the Buddy and Shane Show. We'll be back next Monday. You remember that? And you didn't bring coffees this week.
No.
Very disappointing. Don't forget to follow us on our socials. All you need to do is just search up the Buddy and Shane Show and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. It's been a lot of fun. Please bring me a coffee next week.
I will. The traffic was too much.
It's got nothing to do with coffee.
I couldn't get it.
See you later.
All right. See you guys.
Lambs, Franklin joins the 100 club. People power has spoken. Crawford, who else but Shane Crawford? Welcome to the Buddy and Shane Show for AIA. Healthier, longer, better lives.